And then another time, if I may,
Yeah.
I'm alone, and it was on this trip on the boat that we did all along the west coast of North America. So it was a lot of work, a lot of days, weeks and weeks, and it was late in the trip, and I was tired. I'm on my watch. It was a regular night. It wasn't calm, but it wasn't stormy either, but it was, 6 foot waves. We're into the wind. So it's a rowdy ride and wet and just taxing on your body. But I'm just taking a breather. I'm looking up, like, holy shit, a comet. I saw this cool silver tail, like, just coming uncovered from the clouds.
Mhm.
Oh my God. And I was trying to yell for people to come up, but I couldn't speak. And as I'm watching the tails getting longer and longer, and I'm clamoring. We're tied in so we don't fall off the boat and die when everyone else is down there sleeping. So
Reasonable. Yeah.
moving my tether aside, and I'm climbing down the cup to get to the companionway to yell down to the captain, because I at least wanted him to come enjoy it. But by the time I was able to start moving, this comet tail had stretched out like a whole hand, like in the sky, way in front of me. It was like a whole fist length, and I was starting to see not just the tail of the comet, but they looked like individual
Like
stars.
pieces breaking off.
Pieces, yeah, but in
Yeah.
a perfectly straight line.
Hmm.
So I was like, now I'm like, okay, I'm either going cuckoo or I need to be relieved from my watch because I'm not making. So I called up the captain right away, and I was like, I need to know if you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing right now. And I point out, and he looks and he goes, oh my God. So I'm like, now I'm not feeling any better because,
Mhm.
but he's like, you know what that is? And I'm like, the hair on the back of my neck is standing up. I was like, no, I don't. This is why I called you. And at this point now, they're all separate. And there's discrete 20 dots that you can count that are bigger than stars but smaller than the moon, but bigger, but
Mhm.
big and bright and in a perfectly straight line. I was like, this is something. This is something. What is it? And he's like, you know what that is? I've seen it before. I was like, oh. So now the situation diffuses a little bit, de-escalates. I'm still panicking, but I'm like, okay, what is it? And he's like, it's a Starlink launch, and not just not a SpaceX rocket, like one rocket, but it's a
Oh, the satellite launches.
it takes 20 satellites up, and they go poof, and then
Yeah.
up into their orbit and do
Mhm.
their thing. But it was the most perfect straight line you'll ever see, and it was like, oh my God, it was so cool. It was out of this world, but right here in our world, and it was
Yep.
just
Oh,
so.
wow.
I mean, that's one thing to see just hanging out in a field at night, but like we're in the middle of nowhere in the ocean. I'm by myself. I'm 2 hours into my 4 hour watch. Like,
See,
this is how I die, and I don't mind. It's
I
really.
think if it were me, like I would rig maybe an iPod and put a couple speakers around the ship in discrete places, and then when the sun goes down, just start playing the Jaws theme out of nowhere.
That's horrible. That's so horrible. Little sharks, they're so cute.
Well, they say that we've only explored like what 4% of the ocean, but even that 4% has changed since we explored it. Like it's
Absolutely.
not
Oh,
like
that's a great
it's
point.
not like land where nothing changes. I mean, you've got life coming in and out of there and developing, and obviously now the further they go in the Marianas Trench, they're finding new different species all the time and in new depths. And I mean, we really haven't explored anything
Yeah.
as far as I can tell, because it shifts, it moves around. Wildlife comes in and out just like they would on land.
And it is a shit ton of space. Like, it
Yeah.
is deep when you like when you start looking at some of those internet quick videos that explain things. You're like, uh, this is how far whales go. This is how far humans go, and then this is how far squids go. You're like, and you're not even at a 32nd of the way down, and it's like deeper than we have ever even imagined. And it's just,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's fast. Yeah, the ocean is fascinating, and I don't have any conspiracy theories in mind. But if I were to join any of them, there's a shit ton living below us that we don't know about yet, I think.
Oh yeah.
Like, if there's aliens on
Yeah.
this planet, oh, they're having a ball down there because they could be undetected.
Mhm.
Absolutely, that's where
I
they.
I I find it fascinating because when we think of fish, we think of a certain type of creature. They're usually either like a tuna where they're kind of torpedo-like, or they're, like most fish that you would have in a tank where they're a little bit thin and long.
Yeah,
We
aerodynamic.
have, yeah, we have like those concepts, but I have a
Design.
feeling there's so much more out there. Like that squid that they caught that had the 100-foot tentacles that were like paper thin, almost more like spider legs, and they just went on and on and on and on. I'm like, that's nuts. But that's
Yeah.
probably like in that area, that's just a thing that lives there. Like it's just nuts to us because we haven't seen it before. But that thing could be 100,000 years old. We don't know.
Yeah. Just going on and on. I believe it went on and on to the break of dawn, if I remember.
Until it was time for Donkey Kong.
Ridiculous.
Well, I want to talk about, and thanks so much for your time. Like we've been talking for 2 hours already.
I was expecting it to be a long one. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's how we work. But tell me about, so you've got a website, you're selling some really cool merch now. I love that puzzle of the sunset, by the way. That's a fantastic picture. Did you take that?
I sure did. I sure did.
Oh, beautiful shot.
I want to do more of those. It was fun to do that. And I was like, whoa, I have a lot of good pictures like this that I can make puzzles out of, but I want to write the story of where I was when I took it, what was behind me, what are we looking at, what's beside me, what kind of like, write the words to, mother bleeper. I wanted to, maybe you'll share the audio with me, but I wanted to turn on the transcribing thing while we were talking to test that, to get the written word of what we said today. But I never tried it, so it's way too late now.
I think you can do it after the fact. I think a lot of the podcast apps now, and I'm not sure if the one that I use, which is Acast, I'm not sure if they do it, but a lot of them are just automatically transcribing them and posting when you post the episode. So we'll see if Acast does that or not. But I love the puzzle. I could see that, like making it personal, like it's not just a picture, here's the experience. Because I think that's what we need. Like we've gone beyond just the basics, right? Like paintings, pictures, all that. We want experience now. We want everything to have a meaning. And I think that's really a cool idea. This is where we were before the sirens took us over. That's always a good one. So tell me about the nonprofit. What is it all about? How can people get involved? Which is the right link for that, by the way? Because I've got your Facebook, I've got the original Polly Mathis, I've got the Sailing for Good, I've got the TommySchaeffer.com. So I've got all these different websites, but which is the right one for the nonprofit?
You've got the shrapnel of a polymath, where like, his project started and all of them were doing fine, but none of them are excelling and changing the world just yet. But getting there.
Yet, just like you owning your own satellite, I'll say yet.
Yes. Yeah. I will name it Scott. Scottnik. Oh my God, that's a name.
Done.
Scottnik.
Better than a lot of things I've been called.
There's a lot to unpack.
So which is the right website?
Sailingforgood.org is the proper website for the nonprofit. I do still have polymathis.com, and that is my for-profit business that is not making any money and certainly not profit. But that's what I use to do my website work, and that I don't do much of anymore at all. And that still has the archives of all of the films and audio projects that I worked on. That
excellent.
When I'm feeling down, I go and kind of go through my resume and be like, okay, got some stuff. You've done some cool things, Tommy. And that's a thing we often say since I've been doing these boat trips. It's so important to look astern and look at your wake in life. Like it's so easy to get focused on problem solving. And when you're a problem solver, every day is bullshit, right? Every day you're working on fixing broken stuff, and that's great. But it's hard to remember all the stuff you fixed already. So you've done a lot of amazing things in your life. So whenever you're feeling down, look astern in your wake and remind yourself of the cool shit you've done. Anyway, so that's Polymath is basically that for me now. But
you never know when you find you find some time when you, like right now, when you're between projects and you've got a little bit of time on land. You never know what could pick up during those times.
Exactly. Yeah. So sailingforgood.org. It used to be sailingforgood.com,
That's what I thought. When I pulled up the .org, I was like, that's changed.
Yeah, yeah, and you should notice a lot changed on the site now. So when I moved from the move from .com to .org was not only a change in my top level domain, TLD, as they say in the biz,
Mhm.
um, cuckoo. Um, it was, I moved it when I got the wonderful news that the nonprofit that I had been working so many months and years even on getting my official recognition from the IRS to be officially recognized as a 501c3 charitable nonprofit organization. And it's really easy to set up a nonprofit with the state of Arizona. You can do it in one day in one form and $25, $30 if you want them to do it in any amount of time that's reasonable, or 30 extra bucks.
Right.
Um, but it's real simple, and you're a nonprofit, but you're not an official 501c3 tax exempt nonprofit. And to get
Oh.
that, you have to submit to the federal level.
Mhm.
And there's two ways to do that. There's a really easy form that takes, it's one page in a week or two, or the one that I did. The instructions for the form alone was like 50 pages. And when you submit it, they say, we'll get back to you somewhere between 180 and 360 days from now. And I'm like, yikes.
Well, that's giving
And they
themselves a
kept
little
their
bit of a
promise
window.
there, unfortunately.
It might be a little more towards the latter, we'll let you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So try to keep these stories shorter than longer. But last June, I got back from a trip, and I was like, you know what? I keep going on these trips and I keep putting off what I need to do. And that is it's a lot of legal stuff that I don't understand. It's a lot of things that most nonprofits will hire a lawyer to fill out this process. And, it's like it's $1,000 just to talk to a lawyer. It's 3,000 for them to
Yeah.
help you do this. And it might even be, depending on how complex the organization is,
Right.
be up to $5,000. And I kept putting that off because I didn't have money. I had it, but I didn't want to spend it. I don't have a
Which
lot
is
of money. And I don't want to spend it on
But it's
that.
ironic because a nonprofit typically doesn't have a lot of money, so let's charge them,
Oh man, one of the things I've learned is the amount of companies that are out there soliciting business from nonprofits, charging an arm and a leg for the shit that they do. Like once I got approved, I got so many emails from people like, "Hey, maybe you need this service, and this service, this service,"
Oh God, yeah.
and they just see nonprofit. They're like, "Oh, lots of money that people are giving them, and that they just want to pay to do it." It's fascinating. I get more inquiries now for that stuff than I did when I had a for-profit business.
Oh yeah. I mean, I get at least 10 emails a week about I can optimize your YouTube, I can, all this and all that. And I'm like,
SEO, exactly. Like, gosh,
you
that's
don't
why I
even know
don't
what
do
my
that work
genre
anymore,
is, you
because the
know?
market is so saturated. Like, they could,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to approach anyone and even be taken seriously, because I say, just saying, "Hey, could I help you with your SEO?" That literally sounds like spam,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
what
It's like, yeah, I
spam
was
is
thinking
anymore.
about that because I had reached out last week to a couple of filmmakers who I'm very interested in doing the score for their film. And I thought, how can I phrase this where I don't sound like some spammer who's
Yes.
just, throwing some, I mean, I know them, so at least, we have a relationship established already. But I'm like, I don't care. It still sounds like one of the emails that I would receive where I'm like, oh God, block.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
got a funny tip for you. That might be a tip, or it might be just a funny story. A quick,
Okay.
uh, and then we'll get back to the nonprofit.
Yeah.
Jesus H, we're gonna be here all day. But I got a spam email that I kept and put in a special folder for the longest time. It just sat in my inbox. I resent it to myself so I could change the subject line,
Mhm.
so I knew what it was.
Yeah.
Uh, but it started like this. It said, "Dear first name, just kidding. Hey Tommy, I have a question for you." I was like, "Oh my god, that
That's
totally got my
good.
attention," because I was like all pissed when I said dear first name. Like, they didn't even take the time to fix the like to
To
do the
mail merge it,
mail
yeah.
merge
Right.
properly, whatever. But it was
Yeah.
brilliant because they're like, "Just kidding. Hey Tommy, we have a couple of questions we want to throw your way." It's like, that was fun. That was a
That's
fun
good,
open
that's good.
email that I
Most of
want
the
to use
ones I
today.
get are like, "Dear Haskin," or
Yeah, yeah,
"Dear Haskins," which isn't even my name,
yeah.
or "Dear HaskinCast Podcast," or
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
if you can't even figure
DearScottHaskin.com.
out my name which is part of my domain, by the way, if you can't figure that out, I'm not gonna trust you to do business where you're improving my website. I
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
And that's the irony of mine. Like, I get so many emails are like, "Would you like a website done? Blah blah blah. We looked at your website. Did you look at my website? My services are exactly what you're peddling to me.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
ice to Eskimos, man. Like you're selling logs to lumberjacks. I
I mean,
just don't.
imagine there's like some random door-to-door cereal salesman, right? And he's like, we've got this new brand of cereal. It's really healthy. It's really tasty. Let me give you a sample. And they pull out the sample bag and it's just crushed to bits. It's like dust. That's the quality that I look at when I
Yeah.
see these emails. Like it's just I'm a form letter. All you did was change my the header to something that resembles my name but isn't.
Such a fun analogy with the cereal. I never thought of that one. This was cereal. I get it.
Right.
It is.
Yeah.
It's the same material that was one, but that is
I
not
mean,
appealing.
it would be convenient if you're also a vacuum cleaner salesman. You could just dump that on the floor and then clean it up. But yeah, I mean, that's basically the quality I look at. Like, you want me to hire you to improve my website or my YouTube page. You're saying that you can put me in the top 20. And I'm like, well, but you've promised that to more than 20 people. So where am I going to end up? You know,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's the same equivalent. Like, you want me to trust you to improve the quality of my website traffic or this or that, and you can't even tell me what my name is, or you can't spell in the email. That's my favorite, is when there's misspellings in an email where you're
Oh,
going to improve the quality of my dialogue.
yeah. Forget that. Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah, that's a cool one though. I really like that approach. That's
Yeah,
that's
your first
awesome.
name, and they're like, just kidding.
Yeah.
But it does run the risk of if they're going really fast, you might get canned before they
Oh
get to
yeah.
the punchline. So be careful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, it's kind of hard to write something that doesn't sound like a pitch, because everything is just so, I don't know, everything just seems so fake nowadays. Like, even when you're being genuine, it sounds like you had AI rewrite your crap to make it sound more human, or like it's just hard to find things that are believable anymore, I guess.
I could follow that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, though, tell me about the nonprofit. Tell me what it's all about, how people can get involved in it, and
You
why
betcha.
they should.
And why they should.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sailing in a nutshell changed my life. And it, in a time of need, in a time of darkness, down, and all kinds of things, short version. I was out there and I immediately forgot the troubles. And sailing is tough, and sailing is rigorous physical work and super exciting environments, and it's never a dull moment. You're on a floating engineering marvel, and ship breaks all the time, and you're always working, and it's just a wonderful place to be in the moment. And you have to be in the moment, because especially on these deliveries that we're on, um, you're responsible for the lives of those crew members that are with you, especially
Yeah.
when I'm on watch and there's three other people downstairs sleeping. The only reason they're sleeping soundly is because they put their trust in me to run the boat for the next 4 hours while they're getting sleep for their shift.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
it, yeah, so it's been great. And so I went on these trips, and every trip after every trip, I kept thinking, man, everyone needs, and it would be amazing to give people who need this the opportunity to do it. And really early on, I'm just like, Sailing for Good was born out of a short conversation between a friend and I. Um, and I didn't have any idea of what good I was going to do or how I was going to do it, but I was like, I felt this calling to to give everyone the chance to see their world differently through the sailing experience. So that's leaning on the tagline a little bit, but
Yeah.
um,
I
so in the
love that,
beginning,
by the way. That's absolutely fantastic. But I love that you don't go in with the illusion of, hey, this is a cake job, this is paradise. It's like you're gonna work hard. This is a
yeah,
grind. This is a lot of effort, but
yeah.
there's some pretty serious benefits that you won't get anywhere else.
And now that applies to the deliveries and to the work that I've been doing to learn the sailing. The dream and goal of Sailing for Good is to not necessarily put all people into situations like that. Now, believe you me, they're available, and they're more than available, and anyone that wants to do those big deliveries and learn the delivery world, heck
Mhm.
yeah, that's one of many different options. But the dream of the company, I started with, and I like to tell the evolution of the business model, um, because like anything, it's a very simple model now, but it took a very complex route to get for me to figure out this simple way. You know how most things you're like, you'll do something, you'll write a score, you're like, that's really, people are like, that's simple. How did that take you 2 weeks? Like, well, it took 2 weeks to master to bring such complex ideas into the simple form. So the
Right.
same happened with my business model, where when we were first talking about sailing with my buddies, and we're like, we're going to do sailing for good, and we're going to get people sailing, and so I'm going to go on all of these trips, build up all of these hours and days at sea that are required to get my captain's license, and then I'll get my own boat, have my captain's license, and then I could take people out on the water and give them this experience that you gave me. As I'm talking with my friend who gave me this first trip that we did way back in the day, just from Long Beach to Catalina Island, or Marina del Rey to Catalina Island. I can't remember which one, but it was a quick 6 day trip to Catalina Island. I'm like, wow.
Wow.
Anyway, um, so that was the goal, but it requires 360 days at sea just to get the most basic captain's license, and that's
Mhm.
a year.
Yeah.
And you can't do a whole year at sea feasibly. So many years of time to get the time at sea, plus
Mhm.
learning the rules and regulations, and also. So the plan was to do it, but it was going to take a long time. I'm having fun while I'm doing it, but eventually I'll have my own boat. Eventually I'll be my own captain, and then I could take people out. And those people would be cancer survivors, people who are survivors or still struggling through addiction, substance abuse, mental health recovery, things that affected me either directly or indirectly. Um, these are the people that I wanted to eventually take out on my boat and help change their lives.
I love
Well,
that.
thank you. Thank you for that pause. But fast forward to just 2022, I think it was. Um, I had done a trip from British Virgin Islands down to Panama for a friend with a great boat, great guy. Um, and he left, and I stayed on the boat and took care of the boat while he was gone. And then I grew to fall in love with Panama and left that boat, but still was in love with Panama, and made many trips back and forth to Panama, and I'd met a ton of people in the marina there, and it was like family. I just like, I'm gonna go to Panama again and help
Mhm.
another boat, and so I was with a guy there, and we ended up taking some people out on a couple of day trips on his boat. And he was just a buddy of mine that hung out. We hung out at the bar way too much, uh, and like, and the bar staff was wonderful, and the marina was such that it was a walk through the jungle to get to this really cool
Ooh.
beach bar, but we
Mhm.
had to walk through back roads, and it was about a 20-minute walk from the boat to the bar. And then there's a certain point where you can see the bar and hear the music, but it's still another good 5-minute walk through the trees and thick woods. And but I swear we got to a point where the boys at the bar uh, would see our flashlights coming and pour the gin and tonics. And me
Nice.
and my buddy would each have 2 gin and tonics waiting for us at the bar. And now I'm not saying sailing for good is hey, we go out drinking all the time. It's actually the opposite. It's to help people who struggle with
Yeah.
that. And that's a whole other the conversation we'll get into. But anyway, got to know the bar staff really great, and they emerged as they became our friends, and I come to learn quickly that they ride a little water taxi, the same one that I was talking about earlier, that I take from the little tiny airport to the boat
Mhm.
in that area. Um, they ride this every day. So in the rain, in the howling wind, they out wide open. It's just basically a rowboat with an outboard. Some of them don't even have roofs, and even some of the ones with roofs don't have sides, and it's just wet, cold.
Yeah.
Though it's a try anyway. So they're on a boat every day, but they never. all these guys work so hard for the hospitality industry, serving us, showing us the best time, but never have been on the boats of the people that they serve every single day. And me and my buddy Paul were like, let's go sailing tomorrow. I went to the guys, and they were like, hell yeah. And it wasn't tomorrow, but it was like in a couple of days.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. And it immediately clicked with me. The new business model emerged after we did this trip. I still remember one of my buddies, one of the bartenders, he was texting and voicemailing me, messaging me like 3 days before the trip. Tommy, I'm so excited. Can I bring my family? My kids want to come now. I'm like, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And I was so heartwarmed by how excited he was, and he'd never done it. And then we went on a trip. He had the best time. And then for days after the trip, he's like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It was the best time. Like, and then his kids were like, run up and hug me. And it was like, we
That's
accidentally
awesome.
just did a prototype of the new model of sailing for good. And it doesn't have to be me on my boat with my license and just one guy, one pile of people at a time. Like even with the most basic license, you could take up to 6 people, but that's crowded on almost any smaller boat the
Yeah.
type of boats we're on. So maybe 4 people at a time. Like, so the original model was change the world 4 people at a time. And like, oh, yeah, I want to do it. But I'm never going to get that done in my lifetime. But all these trips that I had been taking and earning all these miles, every single one was a boat owner and or captain and or certified captain, and some of them with their own charter companies who would love to take people sailing, like this
Yeah.
guy that we went out with to take our bar staff friends out. And immediately it clicked, like, I'm an idiot. The the Now the role of sailing for good, and this is where you can cut all of that out and just come to this point right here, is
Which I
is
won't.
now
Yeah.
there's 3 pillars, or if you like Venn diagrams, which I love. There's three intermingled circles, and it is the core is are the stakeholders, the people that I want to serve, the cancer survivors, the cancer patients,
Mhm.
the people struggling through addiction or survive or who have gotten through the addiction things and mental health, all of the beautiful people that would benefit from this. And that's open to grow and change too, as the world needs the
Sure.
help. So there's this group of stakeholders. Then there's the captain's network of that are all these people that I continue to meet on all these trips. So you'll meet one captain by delivering a boat, but every stop you make, you meet like 6 in the marina just in one day, because people are
Sure.
so friendly and they love the new faces and they want to help you. And it's just this great network of people who love to sail, uh, and mostly sails. There's a few power boaters in there, but mostly sailing. Um, and then the third and most important, but they're all important, so there's not one most important, but but the third and tantamount uh, if category is the donor circle. So now the role of sailing for good is to orchestrate these 3 communities: the donors, the stakeholders, and the captains. And it is to craft these custom trips for the stakeholder based on their location, based on how much risk they have or how much risk tolerance they have. Like we talked, like, not everyone wants to go sail for 2 weeks in the middle of nowhere ocean, right? Like
Sure.
some people just want to
Yeah.
go see the sunset and then be home that night, you know, to
Yeah.
watch Netflix.
Mhm.
So there's any range of trips, from a day trip on a bay in San Diego to watch the sunset, a lake, like a Lake Pleasant trip, um, all the way up to, somebody wants to cross the Atlantic to go from Bermuda to Spain, uh, stopping along the way probably in the Verde Islands.
Mm. Yeah.
So knowing all these different captains, all different size boats, different skills, some of them with charter companies that are doing these massive passages all the time, with also massive price tags. Therefore comes the need for the donor situation. In that, I didn't want to build a company that was, like we talked about earlier too, that was turning to this captain's network now and saying, "Hey, what can you give me for free? I'm a nonprofit." Like, no, no, no. I'm
Right.
walking
Yeah.
up to the captain with a handful of cash, even if they don't run their own charter company, and saying, "Hey, if you're a captain and you have the skills, credentials, and willingness to take people sailing, we've got the money to cover the costs at least. And when we're really operating well, we've got money to bring someone from Canada down to Florida, and pay for that travel and put them on the boat there. Uh, anyway, to orchestrate those three circles and bring them all together. So bring in the money, grow the captain's network, and then as we meet the stakeholders that want to participate, listen to their story and find out where they want to go, what part of the world they want to see. Oh, you like
Wow.
Spain? Cool. Let me see if I know anybody in Spain. Let me see if I
Mhm.
know anybody in Spain with a boat. Let me see,
Yeah.
and so on and so on.
So it sounds like your ultimate goal is to send Canadian captains through the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, that was fantastic. I saw a little smile on the corner of your mouth forming, and I'm like, I see where this is going.
There's
It's good.
there's something's coming, yeah.
I'm
No, I
walking
love
into the screen door here. Yes.
in all seriousness, I love that idea. I think that's fantastic. I think that's a very service-oriented concept because you're looking for people to understand that they can benefit for something they probably haven't really thought of. How many people think, you know what, I'd love to just take a boat trip for one day, or God, it'd be cool to go from here to there. Or, I mean, it's something, if anything, they think about it in passing. Like I did thinking about selling off everything I own and
Yeah.
buying a boat and, all that, like that 45-minute journey I took.
It's the same
Um,
that I thought before I got into it. I thought
because it's
sailing was just
untouchable.
for rich people
Yeah.
or uh, uh, um, pedigree. Like you're born into it, right?
Mhm.
Your family sailed for centuries,
Right.
or you're just really rich and you could pay people to sail. I didn't know it was so accessible. Uh,
Yeah.
Part of the reason of like, oh my God, everyone needs to know this. I
But
did.
that's just it, because I think when people come up with a concept, they think, oh, it's too expensive. Oh, I can't afford it. When would I find the time? There's always those immediate arguments that we give ourselves as to why we can't do something, but to not even know that it's actually possible to do it, they'll never pursue it because they don't think it's even feasible.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that's beautiful. I really like that idea. I think that's
Thank you, my
awesome.
friend. And to add to it, it's like I don't have a goal to change it. The goal isn't to change everyone, to bring everyone through this and make them a sailor in the end. That's what happened to me. But
Right.
the goal is to give you this experience where you have to be in the moment and you're doing
Mhm.
something you've never done and you're a little bit scared, but you're with someone who is gonna take who secretly is a little bit scared too always. But we're a flight attendant, right? Like you when you're on an airplane and you get scared, you look over at the flight attendants, and if they don't look scared, you're like, okay, cool, I'm good. But when you're in the rumbly tumblies of a plane and you look over and the flight attendants are buckling up or they look white as a ghost, like that's when you should be scared. So our job
Yeah.
is to not look like that
Were
at all
you on my
times.
flight to Michigan with me? Because that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not, the goal isn't to turn everyone into a sailor, which
Sure.
is hard not to do because it's a wonderful thing. But the goal is to go through this experience and see your world differently. The tagline is there for a reason. I spent a lot of time writing and rewriting that thing, and it's
Mhm.
I'm fun, happily proud of it.
Well, I
Uh,
think about the first time I flew in an airplane, right? I think I was 21 or 22 the first time, and, it really changed my perspective because I always thought, air travel, it's such a pain, and, I don't know that I would be comfortable not being in control, even though I wasn't the one that always drove. I was at least in a car I could reach over and grab the wheel or take turns or whatever.
and you can
You have
slam on that passenger side brake just
You're
as
right.
well.
Yeah, exactly. But you have some kind of control or potential capability for control. If the pilot passed out, could I fly that plane? No. I mean, maybe you can if you're in a movie and they can talk you down and tell you all the things to do, but I don't think that's necessarily realistic. Um,
And in
but
those cases, Leslie Nielsen needs to be on board, or at
exactly,
least in the
yeah.
tower. He was in the tower.
Yes. Or what was the one with Ray Liotta, Turbulence? I think with oh, I can't think of her name now, but that was a really good movie. But anyway, um this that once I actually flew though, I was like, you know what? I'm comfortable trusting that the person who's hired to do this can do the job, that they also
Yeah,
have a
I never thought of
secondary
it this way.
person that can do the job as well, that it's if he falls asleep, we're not going to die. It took a little while, but I was able to adapt my thinking to, okay, my perception versus my experience is completely different. So now I'm more comfortable flying because I've done it. And I realized that I can let go of that control and go, you know what? I'm just here for the ride. Hundreds and thousands of flights fly every day without incident. There's no reason for me to worry about it. If my time is up, it's going to be up no matter what I'm doing. So, it's all good. But it also gave me the perception of seeing the earth from the sky for the first time and
Yeah.
being able to look down at the clouds instead of up at them, which was just completely different, and seeing how the shadows played on the ground. Like, it was such an amazing thing to do that. And then here I am 2.5 hours later in, 3 states away and
Time travel.
going,
That's time travel.
holy crap, that would have been a whole day and a half of me driving to get here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. If you can get people to give it the chance, I think they'll have a potentially life, or at least a perspective altering experience, and something that they'll surely never forget.
Yeah. That's fascinating. I never thought of it that way. In the way of, from that perspective of you not knowing how to drive the thing that is not in your control. I never thought of that. I'm sure I thought about it in the very beginning, when I was learning. But even then, I learned really. I started learning sailing on really tiny boats in Lake Pleasant, and so there was always like a bit of an understanding. There wasn't like, it wasn't. I didn't get right on a big boat that was completely foreign.
Yeah.
So there was this literal putting the toe in the water. So I didn't quite have that perspective that you showed just now, and that's nice. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but I mean, thinking about it from a person that you would be working with on a project like this, where they're like, "Hey, you know what? I would love to go from Bermuda to the Panama Canal, and how many days is it? What do I need to bring?"
A great trip, actually. That's a
There you
really
go.
great trip. It's about
Yeah.
800, 1,000 miles from Bermuda to Saint Martin, the top of the Lesser Antilles, and then it's about another 900 miles down to the Panama. That's a damn great trip right
Oh, there
there.
you go. How far do you go on an average day? Like, how many
Oh,
miles would you put on?
that's a great question, because it depends on the conditions. Always, always, always. Every one of my
Yeah,
answers are always like, it depends. But
sure, yeah.
um,
I
when
mean, not
I'm
accounting for weather. Let's just say like clear weather, you've got a good crew. What would be
with
the
a good
average
sailing or a
distance?
strong
Yeah.
engine, I
Mhm.
usually really conservatively will estimate 100 miles a day, but you can be pretty sure of getting about 120 to 140 miles a day. 140 is pretty high.
Mhm.
You can assume 4 to 6 knots of speed, average-ish. Sometimes it's going to be one, sometimes it's going to be eight. And if you're going upwind, it's different. If there's currents
Yeah,
against you, it's different. A million different facets,
sure.
of course. But
If there's a
we
storm in the
roughly
area and the water's choppy, that's gonna slow you down, obviously.
all kinds of things, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we rough-estimate like 5 knots of speed. And when you're on a passage, you're going all night, all day. So at
Mhm.
5 knots in 24 hours, we'll call it 20 hours. It's 100 miles, 120 miles. That would be
Okay.
120 miles.
That's not
Uh,
bad. Yeah, that would be a good, week-long trip to go from
yeah,
Bermuda to Panama? Yeah.
that's right about a week to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Uh, the
Nice.
trip when I did British Virgin Islands to Panama, that's a that's going west, southwest, down into the curve of Panama, and prevailing winds at that time of the year were basically just behind us the whole way. And we pulled out of the dock, got about a half mile away, and that's when you put up the sails, turn off the engine, and set the sail for the wind being behind us at whatever point it was. And it never changed the whole way
Wow.
for 1,000 miles.
That's
And when we
crazy.
got to Shelter Bay in Panama, we could have kept going, but we wanted to stop because there was amenities there. We needed to look at the prop. I can't remember what went. Obviously, something always goes wrong. I can't remember what went wrong on that one, but we needed to stop and work on the boat before we went to the other location because it was way more remote and less services.
Mhm.
But yeah, we most of the like a lot of times, especially on the lake in Lake Pleasant or in the Bay of San Diego, you're changing the sails and you're tacking and you're jibing and you're moving around obstacles. But it is so nice to do these long passages where you set the sail and it's just all day, every day, the exact same thing. And
Yeah. Well,
it
because
gets dangerous though, because you get comfortable. And on that trip, we actually had it was set the same way the whole time. And I had a stellar crew that I would just worked with for the first time on this trip. and he was doing his deck walk. We call them sunset deck walks. Like before you go sailing into the dark, you do, and usually before dinner, you walk the deck and make sure everything is cool before the sun's going to be gone for 12 hours or whatever.
Right.
And he found a little fray in the line that was gonna let go at 2 a.m. guaranteed. And
Wow.
that was a shitty night because we were like, okay, hot dogs for dinner tonight. We got to fix this. So we pulled the sails in. Oh yeah, I guess we did adjust the sails once on that trip because we had to put them away to do that fix.
But even
they
like
went back
one
out
time
right
is
after.
still pretty minimal. I mean, and if it's for, a fix, that's a little bit different. But
Yeah.
I would imagine too, it also gets comfortable because there's really nothing at the surface. The water's deep enough across the entire ocean where you don't have to worry about, catching the rudder on something or, you know what I mean? Like you're not going to run aground in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
So you think, but like this last trip that we spent time along the West Coast, we didn't go too far offshore. We stayed about 200 miles offshore, and I learned a thing in this trip. And it's always different for each location, and the local fishermen will always be able to tell you the best. But there's a certain depth where people like to fish at, and on
Mm.
the West Coast, especially along the Baja California, the fishermen love what's called the long line fishing, and they put out buoy after buoy after buoy on this really long line, and it drapes a net into the water. And it is a little bit of a to hit with your boat, and you got to be watching for it
Oh,
all the time when you're in that area because it's just a long rope that's just going to go and grab
right.
on and then
Yeah.
basically wrap around your prop. And so that was a pain. But if you get 200, 300 miles offshore, you're exactly right. It's nothing. You want to watch for seaweed. There's patches of kelp sometimes,
Yeah.
but again, that's also going to be most of the time uh, closer to land. Uh, but yeah, there's sometimes you'll be watching the depth when you're offshore in the really deep. The depth sounder goes to a point where you're not even getting an echo back from the sonar, so it just goes. "Meh." I don't even know how deep it is. It's just infinite. But
Mm.
every once in a while, you'll be on watch, and it'll be like 60 feet, and then infinite again. Like,
Wow.
holy shit! So
Just
you
enough of a mountain to get that close to the
yeah,
surface.
or a
Wow. Yeah.
whale, or a school of
Oh,
fish,
yeah,
or
yeah,
some
that's
reef. Like,
true.
oh my god, we have no
That's
idea
true.
what that was, and it was something.
Oh, hey, I know one other thing I wanted to ask you. I can't remember now. I want to say it's killer whales. I don't think it's sharks. I think it's killer whales that are going after boat engines now. Like
Mhm.
they are.
The orca,
What do
the
you think
killer
of
whale.
that?
Yeah, I thought it was a hoax when I first heard it, but then, it's legit. Those little fuckers have sunk boats, and
Yeah.
they just do sailboats, it seems. They Something happened. They're very, very intelligent creatures, and something happened where the rudder or keel or both of a sailboat hurt one of the baby whales, and the mother was there or noticed it and was furious, obviously, but they learned to teach each other that sailboat rudders are bad, and orcas in the Iberian and by the Iberian Peninsula is where hopefully they don't spread the knowledge across the planet because it'll be miserable to deal with. But yeah, we did a trip August 2022 from Lisbon, Portugal to Palma de Mallorca, Spain, which was basically along Portugal through the Strait of Gibraltar and into the Mediterranean. It was wonderful, but
Okay.
it was legit. All hands on deck. Always be aware and on the lookout for orcas because they've been sinking boats there, and they ain't quit. They're still doing it. So it's
It's I find it
legit.
fascinating the evolution of that. I mean, it's one thing for one of them to figure it out, but to be able to show the others, hey,
Yeah.
here's how we're going to do this, and here's why we need to do it, or I'm angry, and here's like you're all going to get revenge with me. Like to have that communication, I find that fascinating in the animal kingdom. I mean, you
It
look
is, and
at
it's scary, and it's basically a
yeah,
reminder, don't F with nature, dude.
right. But I mean, you look at like alligators, hippos, bears, they all have their own way of communicating their like their hierarchy, their pecking order, their here's what I do and here's what you do. And they all
Yeah.
work very well without being able to speak. And then here's us. We can't agree on anything in society
I can't even
anymore.
get a word in. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
complex
it's
language, and people still
yeah.
like super. That's super cool. or
Right.
like, I'm like, really? There's a dictionary full of words to
Yeah.
describe how you feel right now, and you could only take super good.
What do you think about that green dress? It's aqua.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
like, and then you have this whole thing where you've got to have like an internet debate about is this blue or is it green? And I mean, we
Oh,
can't
yeah.
even like the most basic stuff. And here these guys are like, you know what? Let's take some boats out.
Yeah.
And it's just insane to me. So I want to thank you
So good
so much.
question. It's
Yeah,
a real thing. It's a
yeah,
good question. It's a real thing. The orcas are not happy around the Iberian
yeah.
Peninsula. So anywhere around Portugal, Spain, Strait of
Mhm.
Gibraltar, even in the Med now, I think all throughout the Med, you have to be aware. But luckily, knock on teak, that it's
Yeah.
just in that hemisphere.
And
Um,
they're also going after shark livers too. Like they will attack a shark just to eat the liver and nothing else.
I have heard something like that now. I can't remember.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing how fast those things can swim. I've seen videos of them, like the shark is just swimming along and just boom, like a torpedo, the orca comes and just nudges him
Is
right
it
in the
orcas
lungs
eating shark liver?
or
What?
right in the gills. Yeah. And they'll just knock the shark right out of his mind and then they'll just tear out the liver and leave the rest. They won't even eat the rest of the organs or
Really?
anything. Yeah, it's nuts. And I'm
I
like,
thought they
man,
like seals the most. I thought the orcas ate seals.
they do, but shark
But they-
livers, there's something specific about shark livers that they target. And I'm like, why wouldn't you at least eat the rest of it? I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of goodness in a shark, but
Yeah,
yeah,
especially
I
baby
don't know, man.
shark.
It's crazy out there. But
We caught a
there's
baby shark one
did
time
you?
on our fishings. Yeah, we had to let her go. Holy moly! It was only like this big. Well, no one's gonna know how big that is on the scale of where we
Like a
are.
foot, what, like a foot and a half?
I'd say 1.5 to 2 feet. Yeah, a
Yeah.
tiny little
Mhm.
guy. And oh my god, they are strong. Like fish in general are strong and like really hard to control when they come in. But that
Yeah.
thing, oh my! I feel like it was moving the boat while we were, and it was just a foot
Wow.
and a half. It was, yeah, it was pissed,
That
and
would
it
be
was
scary
eating.
enough. I think if a swordfish flew out of the water, because they'll jump, and if a swordfish flew out of the water and onto your boat, that would be scary because those things are like 1,000+ pounds
Yeah, I wouldn't want one of
and
them.
and they're stabby.
They're super stabby, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what landed on our boat often? We see very many times are the flying fish. Flying fishes are
Oh yeah.
are fascinating. I never knew how cool they are. They
Mhm.
really like I thought they called them flying fish, that they just jump for a while, but no, it'll fly for
Yeah,
like
they actually have wings.
far. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it'll go. Yeah, they're so neat to watch dancing over the water. And they'll most of the time they'll fly as far as they can, but they'll come out of a wave and into a wave. So they'll basically just cut the trough, like but
Oh, right.
they don't
Yeah.
care where they are. They're in a fluid and it's air and it just changes between air and water. It's so
Mhm.
neat. They're
That is
neat to
cool.
watch.
That would be, I mean, if you were going to be a fish, that would be a pretty cool one to pick because you get the
Yeah.
best of both worlds, really.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Um,
That is pretty cool.
Before we go, I have one other thing for you. I want to thank
Oh, that means
you.
we probably are going soon. I'll tuck your ear
Well,
off.
I want to thank you because you, my friend, are the reason that my 30-second album is what it is. I would have never written this album without you. I don't know if you remember, but about a year ago, maybe, you sent me a piece of music that was like 24 minutes long. It was one song, and it was a piece of chill music that you wrote. And I listened to it and I gave you some feedback on it. And I started thinking, I wonder if I could write something like that. That's not that far off from mental sauna. But
Yeah.
I wonder if I could, it goes against some of the rules I have percussion wise, but I'm like, I wonder if I could do something like that. And I wrote a piece and I sent it to you. And I said, tell
Oh,
me if
send it.
this fits the genre. And you said, yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly the right style for
I
chill.
gotta go listen to that again because I forgot you sent me a piece.
Well, I've written 9 songs now for the album, and it's gonna hopefully come out this year. With my move, the timing and everything, I've still got 3 more songs to write, but it's gonna be called Mental Sauna Chill. It'll be my 30-second album, and that was created because of you, my friend. So thank you very much.
Oh, this whole time you said 30-second, and I'm thinking 30 seconds long.
No,
I'm thinking you wrote this
3-2.
30-second piece, but
Yeah,
30-second edition. 3
yeah, my
2.
30-second album, yeah. But what I'd like
There's
to
got to be a
do,
cover play in that, like 30 seconds of fame, 30
I
second.
like that. Yeah. What I'd like to do though, once I get the songs mixed, is to send them to you and you tell me if they fit the genre before I put them on the album. Because I don't want to,
Wow.
it's not something I'm particularly familiar with. I'm kind of using the song that you showed me as like a template of how that music works.
Oh,
And
I'm
then
flattered and
I've
honored, my
probably
friend.
gone off the deep end and been
No,
like
that's
far
the
off the
point,
mark
right?
now,
The
but
point, that's the point of making art, right? Is like
yeah.
you just get that little tickle of inspiration from what you got from me, and then let that ingest that, and then let it evolve into whatever is Scott Haskin and come out as Scott Haskin, and that is yeah. I'm flattered to be a part of that process, man. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's all because of you. I mean, I would have done something completely different with this album if it wasn't for that.
Oh,
I don't
I
know what it would
cannot
have
wait
been,
to
but
hear that now, and I'm so
uh,
glad to hear it's not just
yeah.
30 seconds long.
Yeah, no, nope. I mean, every song is at least 3 minutes, I'm sure,
Yeah, I
if
was wondering, I
not
was like,
like
that's
6 or 7. But no, that's all thanks to that one piece. That's what I love is that you can hear something, it can inspire you in all kinds of ways, and you never know. Like that's why I like to keep an open mind. I don't like to say, well, I don't like this genre, that genre, because you never know when you hear something how it might make you feel or how it might, make you want to do something or whatever the experience is. If you close yourself off to things, like for the longest time, I would not listen to rap. I'm like, it's rap. I'm not going to like it. And then when I started listening to it, I'm like, wow, there's some real talent in some of this stuff. Whether it just be the rhythm of it or the lyrical rhythm or, how many words they can say that fast or whatever it is, there's a lot of talent in that genre.
I love that you
So
say that because that's how
yeah.
I was with electronic music. The people who don't listen to electronic music always say like, "Ah, that's the same thing over and over again." It's like, "Oh my god, it's amazing the different worlds we must live in because I hear so much else that either they're not hearing or their mind is closed off to not that they don't appreciate it." But like, sure, there's
Yeah.
repetitiveness, but oh my goodness,
You know
you're
what they're
listening
probably
way
hearing?
deeper, and
They're
there's
probably hearing more of that club type music where it's just meant to be long passages of,
yeah,
so that you just stay out on the dance floor for 10, 12
exactly.
minutes
It's
at a
just a kick
time.
drum to keep the dance floor
Yeah,
still.
exactly. I mean, that's dance music. That's not what I think of when I think of electronic music. Electronic music is usually very beautifully layered. There's lots of transitions. It moves.
It's just it's to me, it's an orchestra with just a bunch of different instruments that are not traditional, you know?
Right,
Instead of a French horn, you have the sine wave. Instead of the timpani, you have a kick drum. Instead of,
right.
and it's all, of course, created in the electronic. This touches on another piece of me that I constantly I want to stop trying everything and focus on one thing.
Mhm.
But what I found to be good at one thing, you have to know a little bit about everything. So I can't stop focusing on everything, or you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
love living the life of a polymath, but it tends to take time to do a lot of stuff. And like music, I keep walking away from and not doing like I want. Every time I think of you or talk to you, they're like, oh man, I got all the gear still. I got all the samples still, and I've left my a lot of the samples or the patch kits for so long that they probably become like cool again. You know, it's like
Right, yeah.
it's like a Hammond B organ, right? Like it's so old that it's cool again. Like so I
Right,
think
yeah.
that's what most of my libraries or sample
Mhm.
libraries. That's why I couldn't think of the word. Are
Right.
like so old that they're freaking cool vintage shit that people want to get their hands on.
You
Anyway,
never know. I
gotta
mean,
get back
it's
and play again and
yeah.
mess around because
I will say this, you are a very talented composer, and I've never heard anything from you that I didn't enjoy.
no,
And I think about the first piece I heard from you was the one, I can't remember the title of it, but it was the one that you did for the Unicorn album
the
that
unicorn
we
man. I
both
remember
submitted
that.
songs on,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
from
that's great.
Jessica Marquis.
Yep,
And that was such a fun project. I love
that really was.
that's one of my favorite pieces that I've written. Was the one I submitted for that one. I love your piece. I also my favorite one on that album is the one that it was called Unicorn Plus, and it was all about this little girl who started taking sleeping pills because she wanted to spend more time with the unicorn in her dreams. It was that comedy team that did it. I can't think of who they are now, but they used to perform down at the Improv in downtown Phoenix when they did those
It
like
wasn't
battle
Modest
of the
Proposal, was it?
no, no,
Galapagos. Galapagos?
no. I'm just going to look now because
Very good.
it's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
bug me if I don't. So I'm just going to look real quick. It was a guy and a girl. He also had his own comedy act where he was a pie man, but she was like a great improv piano player.
Oh, Jose and Michelle Edwards.
Yes, yes.
Um,
What
the
was
hell
their comedy team?
I can't remember their name now either. They were great.
I'm trying to
Oh,
remember what I have the
I'm gonna kick myself when I hear it. Dangerville.
Dangerville. Yes,
Dangerville.
yes.
How did I get that out of my brain? Oh my God.
It feels like they just wrote the song on the fly, and being great improv people, they probably did.
Oh yeah. Everything they did was like Jose was king of that. He just like he had a he still does have a very strange mind on his shoulders. Oh
Are
my
they
God.
are they still doing anything? Are they together anymore?
Not that
Or?
I know of. No, I don't know
Yeah.
if they're together anymore.
Yeah, I really, whenever I saw them perform, I used to really enjoy their stuff. And
Yeah,
she's
they
just
were
such a great musician. I mean, the stuff that she played on that song, and to know that she would just be able to pull that off live without even thinking about it, just she's just one of those people that's born to do that kind of thing. But whenever I listen to that song, it cracks me up every single time. And I don't even know how many times I've
I have to
listened
go
to
back
that.
because I know I have the CD here somewhere with all the songs on, or maybe it is just mine. No, I have to have the whole one. I remember
Yeah.
that events that we all attended. We
Oh,
all
when they did
contributed
the,
those things, but then there was the silent auction that we
yeah, yeah,
attended.
that's right.
I gave like $60 for a $30 gift certificate to a pizza place right by my house. And as I was moving out of Phoenix in 2020, I found the gift certificate. I never used it. So I was basically like, it took $60. And you think
Oh
already it was a
man.
bad deal to get a $30 gift certificate.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
the silent auction. This is what you do.
Right.
Which, by the way, full circle, like I'm now running a nonprofit, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to get some momentum and run things. Have an
Yeah.
event and oh yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it'll come together. I know that. And for you guys that are listening, the links are in the show notes. I will highlight the link to the nonprofit. There's a lot of really cool merch that you can buy and contribute that way. Some really high quality looking stuff too. I have to say it didn't.
Really, really happy with how the merch comes out. And to
Yeah.
be fair, to warn anyone, um, to be fully transparent and keep my nonprofit running smoothly at all times, even from the very start. um, the merch has really tight profit margins. It costs a lot to make these things because
Yeah.
they're one-off prints things, so
Mhm.
they're expensive, and they don't put a whole lot of money into the nonprofit. But what it does is it gets the name out there. It gets like my
Yeah.
friend Amy just sent me a picture this morning. She got coffee mug arrived, and she's drinking out of her, and I'm drinking out of the exact same one. But I have the first one that made that the graphics are screwed up, and she has the new one that the graphics are right. And it's so
Mhm.
neat to be making things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to make more. So yeah, if anyone put it in the comments, like what stuff do you want? Like
Right.
everyone has water bottles and things. I don't have water bottles actually yet. I need to do
Which
that.
is really ironic considering that you're talking about sitting on water through this
Yeah,
whole trip.
yeah.
The,
I do
the
have a
bigger
beach towel.
challenge, well, that's good. The bigger challenge is the shipping these days. I mean, shipping has gotten so ridiculously expensive. A lot of times I'll be like, hey, I really want that. You know what? I'll splurge a little bit. And then I'm like, well, it's going to cost me twice as much just to ship it. And
Yeah,
then I
yeah,
talk
yeah,
myself out of it because it's just ridiculous, you know?
yeah.
That's
And
that's the tougher part.
it's really tough. I made a sticker, and I wanted to send a sample to myself to see how it is before I made it live on the market to send. And so I got a really cool sticker for $2 that cost me $7 to ship to myself.
And see what I mean? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just it. I mean, but you're not spending $60 on a $30 gift certificate you didn't use. So
Yeah, yeah. At the end of this podcast, people will be like, "That guy who
you're
does the sample shit is really bad with money."
I don't know. I feel like you're leveling up now. Well, man, thank you so much for coming back on the show. We will definitely do this again. I am so excited to watch you grow this nonprofit, but I just love how far you've come since the last time we've talked. I mean, it's been about, 5 years or so, and
I can't believe
you've
that.
come so far in that time. You really have. And I'm even more jazzed for you than I was when you were starting out.
It's these kind of things that not only I need, but everyone needs to remember to look back, look astern and look at your wake, and it's nice to come on and talk about these things and get out of the trench for a second,
Mhm.
uh, and celebrate a little bit.
Yeah.
Because yeah, like not only can we count the number of trips that I've taken and the number of people that I've met, but like I'm logging my miles. And when we talked last time, I had maybe 372 miles. Not that I'm counting,
Well,
but
yeah.
now I think I have 16,825 miles.
Wow. That's awesome.
Roughly.
And how many did you say you needed to be a captain?
The funny thing about that is, as much as I love counting the miles, those don't count, but the days at sea count. So
Oh,
you need 360 days minimum to get the lowest license. And the one that I want to get, you need 720 days at sea. So a
okay.
day is what you think it is, 24 hours.
Mhm.
But you can go out for a minimum of 4 hours if you go out, do a sailing, and then come back. And that will count as a day. But you can't go out for 4 hours multiple times in one single day and count that as multiple days. So you can only get 24 hours out of a day, but you can get a day for as little as 4 hours. Uh, so
Okay.
so basically, doing these deliveries where I go on these big long trips on long passages for weeks at a time, I'm gathering my days the hardest freaking way possible because I'm doing full 24-hour days. But
Right. Yeah.
it's killer learning. Like the stuff that I've learned just on the first trip alone is like absolutely invaluable, and it's going to come into play all my life somewhere, like
Mhm.
somewhere someday. That chafing that my buddy caught that saved us from waking up in the middle of the night at 2 in the morning, the boat falling over because the line broke. We
Right.
caught it right before sunset and had a cocktail after we finished it because we knew we were going to bed with brand new lines. So like, nothing happened tonight.
Yeah.
That's
Now I
nothing
feel
happened,
safe.
by the way.
Exactly, yeah. Well, and plus the people you meet, the relationships that you build, not just on the boat, but when you go into different ports and you see the same people over and over, like your friends at the bar. And
Yeah.
those are things that really become invaluable and add so much to the experience, you know.
Yeah, when I returned to Panama, I felt like I didn't feel like I was leaving home to go on a trip. I felt like I was leaving a short stay at a place where I grew up to go home. Like so I
Yeah.
felt I'm like, the sounds of the frog, and like, yeah, I'm home again. It's
That
neat.
yeah, that's how Vegas used to be for me when I used to because I used to come up here, 4 or 5 times a year before I moved, and that's exactly what it was. I felt sometimes more at home here than I did at home in Arizona, and I lived in
Love it.
Arizona for years. So I totally get that, but I admire people that go for their dreams and you put everything on the line to do it. I mean, you sold your house, you sold your car, you got rid of most of your stuff, and you've put everything, your whole life into this. And I really admire people that are willing to do that for their dreams and to see how well this has played out for you, with all the effort that you've put into it. I couldn't be happier for you, man. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I could not be
Oh,
happier for you.
I love it. Thank you, brother. I love it. And it's just getting started. I joke
Yeah.
when we got that approval finally from that big long it was 100 pages when I finally submitted that application, and a lot of it is boilerplate bylaws and things like that, but a good 30 pages was stuff that I spent 12 months writing and
Mhm.
then 6 months rewriting when
Yeah.
I had some professional input. Yeah, and it's just wow, cool. I got it done. We got approved. Hard work is done. Now the hard work begins.
Well, I
So,
think it's getting past that. You missed this checkbox, or this looks too dark. It looks like you filled this, like any little thing that they could have done to reject you. Like getting past that hurdle isn't just a matter of waiting it out. It's like, oh God, what are they going to find that's wrong? Because this has to be right. And you're like,
yeah,
well, I
right.
erased this, and they think I checked that box, or like whatever it would be. And you're
You're
just
right.
like all this time, you're like waiting and waiting and waiting, and that's such a long time for that.
'Cause,
You
yeah, it was
know,
months and months and
that's
months and months.
grueling.
And it
Yeah,
was like,
that's
oh
grueling.
man, how bad could this be? And then finally, not like many months into the process, I finally learned there was a website you can go. They always said like once you submit it, you can't check on it. We'll just be in touch. But there is a website where you can go to that they can't tell you if you're being reviewed or not. But what they did tell you is like, hey, as of today, we're reviewing any application that was sent to us as of this date. And it was like, some date months and months ago.
Mhm.
So I was watching that like a hawk every couple of days. We're like, okay, now they're doing September. Now they're doing October. Now they're doing November. I was August. So it was like a whole year and a half I'm waiting.
Jeez.
And I finally see they're like in April. I'm like, oh, good, May, June, July. Yeah, it's so close. It's so close. And then it's stuck for like 6 months in April. I'm like, this is brutal.
Because everybody got their tax returns and they were able to file their paperwork. Yeah.
Oh, yes, took forever. And then I got sick of checking that site. And I don't even know. I haven't checked the site for a while, but I think it's still stuck in like, I submitted in August. Oh, yeah. I submitted August 18th. And the last time I checked it, I had already known that I got approved because I got sick of checking that site. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to look myself up in the IRS directory and see if I got approved, but haven't been informed yet.
Oh,
I'm that desperate. I'm like, this isn't going to come up. I'm not going to be approved. Oh my God. Oh, approved. And then that's how I found out. It was so cool.
That's awesome.
And it was also really fucking frustrating because it had been approved for a month and a half.
Yeah.
I wasn't informed.
Yeah, that's another thing I'll say as we wrap up. I feel like another skill that we've really lost in this world is patience. I mean, you have it when you have to have it because there's no choice. But I feel like in this world where, you can download a game in a minute, and I've heard people complain that takes too long now. They're like, well, it's going to be a minute and 12 seconds before I can play. I'm like, you know what?
When we grew up, you would put a cassette in the Commodore 64 and wait 2 hours for the thing to load before you can play your word game.
I love my story of I used to play a lot of text adventures. I don't know if you're familiar with like Zork and games like that. Yeah.
Zork too, I remember. Yeah.
Yep. So before Infocom was created, there was another company called Adventure International, which was headed by Scott Adams, who I've had on the show. Really amazing guy.
How cool.
His adventures were 2 words: get lamp, light lamp, go boat. It was very, very basic stuff. And they were on cassette like that for my Texas Instruments 99 4A computer. But we could not get his stuff locally. We had to send to Europe to get it, to the Adventure International office in Europe. So I would have to go to the bank, get an international money order, go to the post office to figure out how much it would cost to send that money order over to Europe, wait probably a month for it to get there, and then another month and a half to 2 months to get my package. So you're really talking
that takes an hour to load up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you got to load it up. So you're really talking like 3 months and no way to follow up. You can't see if your international money order was cashed. There's no way to know if they got your order, if they're shipping it, what the tracking number is because it's overseas. We don't even have that now, barely. And it's like, man, you had to be patient because you had to be patient. And I feel like when I hear people complain about the silly things now, I'm like, oh, you don't even know.
That's a great story.
And then I take out my sarsaparilla and sit on the rocking chair in the porch and tell stories of times gone by.
Right, damn, 3 months and the tape didn't even load. I had to send it back.
And then they charged me a fee. Yeah, it's crazy when I think about that, because I think in this world of modern conveniences, I think it's kind of understandable why people don't have that. But at the same point, I think it's an important skill to have because there are things you're going to have to wait for. And it's going to be a lot harder to do that if you don't have that coping mechanism.
Oh, man, we could talk for another 5 hours because there's things in sailing that map to life the same way. I remember talking with a friend where on land, you're like, the internet goes down. I get mad. I'm like kicking the router. And then I'm like, the internet. And like, none of that did anything, but when you're out there in the middle of the ocean and a line breaks and the sail is flapping in the wind and causing damage. And there's a block on the end of it, which is a pulley in regular people speak. And it's whipping around like a mace.
That's dangerous.
It's very dangerous. And you don't get to be pissed off and kick things and be like, yeah, why me on my watch? I'm trying to.
Yeah.
No, you get to fucking work and you fix it before it sinks your boat.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like, I feel like I should just be sitting there going, back in my day, I had to get up to change the channel. We had to walk all the way to the TV.
Yeah, we had to go to a new building to watch a movie.
We had to climb up on the roof and turn the antenna.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But dude, kudos. Kudos to you for getting out there and living, creating the idea and not just letting it go, but following through, changing your life over and turning it into everything that you have. I can't wait to see your nonprofit grow. And I just love that you're out there doing what you dreamed of doing, because so many people will not let themselves get to that point. They're too afraid.
Too kind, my friend, too kind. And this kind of speak is what keeps me going, because there are lots of days where I'm like, fuck it, I just want to be normal. I want my corporate cubicle job back, because
Oh God,
you can
no.
kind of do nothing and get paid for it. I want that again, but I would never go back to that shit.
Yeah, the day that I got sent home from my office for COVID when I was still working corporate jobs, I swore to God that was the last day I would ever work in an office.
Did you keep the
And
promise?
yeah, I have
Ah, good.
not worked in an office a single day since COVID.
Good man. Good man.
Yeah. Well, you take care of yourself, my friend. Bring that triple ointment in any language
Good
that you
memory.
can
Way to call
read.
back. Did you take notes, or is that from the memory?
That's all. I will never forget that. In fact,
Okay.
every time I see a tube of Neosporin, I will think of you and your splinter.
This is what we boiled down to. All the wonderful things we spoke about. And
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
I am but ointment on your brain.
Well,
Good
you
deal.
take care. Keep in touch. I will send you those songs when they're ready to be
Oh,
reviewed. And thank you so much for the inspiration for
oh my
my
God.
album. I'm really
Thank
excited to get
you.
it out there and see what people think.
Yeah. Let me light a fire under you. I can't get that done. I can't. No hurry.
Yeah,
Good things take time.
just got three more songs to write out of the 12 that I'm going to have on the album. So I just
If
finished
I
one
know
yesterday.
you
So
can crank out songs fast.
yeah, I've got like 1,240 some, I think, so far.
Man,
So yeah, I've
that
spent a
was
little
the fun
time.
thing when I was listening to our first, the re-listening to our previous before coming on today. You're working towards that goal of 300 episodes, and I'm like, you smashed that since we.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, that was a big deal at the time because Apple Podcasts only hosted 300 episodes. If you went to 301, you would lose the first one. And I
Oh
told
wow.
from my very first guest, James Sizemore, I said, if you take the time to come on the show, this will always be available for people to hear. So I was going to stop at 300 episodes because that was where the cutoff was.
How about
And
that?
they've since changed
And now
that.
we have artificial
So,
intelligence, and
oh
we get
yeah,
to flying
yeah.
cars.
I mean, think about this,
What
like
the?
AI chatbots were not a public thing when we had our last talk, and
Oh
now
yeah,
they're everywhere.
that's fascinating to think. You're
Yeah,
right.
that's crazy.
Okay, now I really feel old.
What'd you say, Sonny?
I didn't hear a word you said. I was thinking about my spleen. It hurts. Yeah.
Yeah, so was that shark until the orca took it. Maybe it
That's
was
the
spleen. Maybe
liver.
it wasn't. Maybe it was a spleen. I think it was the spleen that they were going after. I have
I
to
think you're
double
right.
check, but I think
I
it
think
was
you're
like
right. The
this
liver. I don't think it was
the
the spleen.
okay,
Spleens.
the liver sounds
That's
right.
like, well, the liver is a clean. I don't know. They both must taste like shite.
Yeah, I can't. Well, I mean, I just can't imagine. Like, I don't understand animals anyway. Like a lion just walking down the road and seeing an animal and going, "I'm gonna put that in my mouth." Like that just.
Meanwhile, humans, think of us. Like, who's the first guy that was hanging out in a cow pasture? We're like, I'm gonna pull on that thing. Not only am I gonna pull on that thing, but whatever comes out of it, I'm gonna put that in my mouth. And then milk was born.
Or
like
birds. Like, who looked at a bird and said, "That looks good.
that looks
Try
delicious.
that."
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh, people.
We
Well, you take care,
digress.
my brother. Stay at it. Holler at me whenever you get the chance, when you're inland or have the ability, and we'll stay in touch. And man,
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see you continue to grow this thing.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it. And if I'm ever even remotely near Vegas, hopefully not in a boat, because that would be a bad trip.
Yeah, we'd have a whole different discussion if that were the case.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man. The way holy shit, don't even get me started. But yeah, we'll look you up for sure. I haven't been out
Yeah.
west for a while.
Yeah. Well, I'm only in Vegas until mid-November, and then I'll
Oh,
be
that's right.
in Tulsa is
Yeah.
is my new destination. So if you ever
That
find
there's
yourself,
Oklahoma, right?
it is in or out of a boat in Tulsa, let me know. Thank you
All
guys for
right.
listening to another episode of the HaskinCast Podcast. We'll see you next week for something or other. Cheers.